since 2012, if you got the permit for tour boats, your boat needs to be electric. Otherwise, you don't get the permit. We still have some legacy ships, that's how we call them, on the canal that got the permit before 2012. But they also need to swap out their engine for an electric engine by 2030. In 2030, all tour boats must be electric. Plus, it is rather convenient that I don't have to shout over the engine. I love the sound of a one-cylinder, it's amazing. But during tours, it's kind of convenient that you have the silence on an electric boat.
Private boats?
Sorry?
And private boats?
This is complicated. The city council really wants all the private boats to be electric, but our power grid is overloaded at the moment. So they have diesel generators in Amsterdam North running to actually catch these shortage of electricity. So if all tour pleasure crafts will become electric, you need an entire city worth of electricity to actually charge all the boats. And then the next question is, there need to be plugs on the side of the canal. Who is going to pay for this? Because you don't own the spot in the canal. You can get a permit for your boat, but it works like car parking in the street. So you don't own that spot, you can just park your boat in that zone. So the idea is not too bad, only I don't see it happening anytime soon because it's just not feasible.
How is
Give me 1 second, sorry. Screaming over the boat.
How is Dutch power generated?
We have a boatload of windmills in the North Sea. This makes up a good chunk of our power. I believe we have 2 nuclear power plants, but this is not enough. We need 5 more or 6. That would be amazing because cleanest energy in the world. And I do believe that we also have some solar farms, but not a lot because solar power works over here. But then and again, it also rains 200 days of the year. So it's not the best. And these are the main sources I would suggest that we use for power. So it's not that I know of that we have coal generators, we don't use them anymore. Oh, then what I also like to point out over here is you can see a lot of parked bicycles on the bridge. You will see bikes everywhere in the city. We have approximately 2 million bicycles in the city with a little bit less than 1 million inhabitants. The main reason, most locals, they have 2 bikes. One fancy electric one that they use to ride to work, and then one trashy bike that they use going for drinks. Because the way back home is not always as smooth as how you envision it to be. And then also during the nighttime, a lot of bikes disappear. Bike theft is the most common crime in Amsterdam. And also a lot of bikes disappear in the canal. I do not know how many bikes disappear in the canal because no one is keeping track of this. But I do know that we fish approximately between 15 and 20,000 cycles out of the canal each year, guys. Let that sink in, there's a lot of bicycles. No pun intended.
Do many cars end up in the canal?
Oh, yeah, this is a good question indeed. On average, every year between 10 and 20 cars drive in the canal. Yep, it happens. But there was a significant spike in the data graph because when Tesla entered the market, their autopark software didn't recognize the canal as a canal. Yeah. So if you pressed autopark, it was literally self-destruct. It drove straight in. Yeah. In half a year, 44 Teslas drove in the canal. Yeah. So if you buy a Tesla now, it comes with an Amsterdam software update, so it knows where the canals are. But this was a real issue for a while.
How expensive is Amsterdam real estate relative to incomes?
I'm going to tell you, of course, but this is my first reaction. The square meter price is roughly between 10 and 12,000 euros per square meter. So if we have any Americans on board or British people, then it is roughly 10 to 12,000 euros per 10 square feet-ish, which is crazy. And in general, most apartments in the city, each house, is split up into apartments. And one floor is between 60 and 70 square meters on average. And most houses will sell in that surface size basically for 800,000 euros, because it's quite common to also overbid for the real estate price. And then rent is roughly between 2 and 5,000 euros for a 2-bedroom apartment, depending on the location, the state of the apartment, etc., etc. Only the average salary of a Dutchman is 2,400 euros after taxes. And they have a very weird rule that if the rent is, let's say, 2,000 euros, they want you to make 6,000 euros. And this cannot be a joint collaboration of more people living inside of the house. They want one person. And this is kind of tricky because not a lot of people make 6,000 euros. And then you can only rent the ones from 2,000 euros. If you want to rent the one from 5,000 euros, you need to make 50,000 euros. So we have a housing crisis in Amsterdam. Only it's a very sensitive snare amongst most locals because they're born and raised over here in Amsterdam. They can't live over here. It's kind of tricky in that sense, yeah. There are some housing solutions further down the outside of the city in like the suburbs, but it doesn't change a lot in price. It's like 1,800 euros, maybe 1,700. But renting a place for 1,400 euros is not happening. And then people think, oh, you move to cities outside of Amsterdam. No, because the Netherlands is not that big. So now the cities around Amsterdam are literally as expensive as Amsterdam. So yeah, it's kind of difficult at the moment.
So you live on the boat?
Yep, I live I live underneath a bridge. De VHS3 wil graag van de Snoepjesgracht even oversteken naar de Houtkopersburgwal. Kan dat, jongens? Komt er elke moment iets uit?
Oh, rechts van links.
Oké, dan hoop ik dat het is. So no, the real estate is a little bit tricky at the moment. Yeah.